If you lived around Auckland for the last 20 or 30 years, you've seen Dave at every demonstration there ever was. He was a very committed, deeply believing socialist. And I think he marched for every cause that he thought had value and integrity and honour. But yes, no, you've seen David around Auckland a lot. I first met David Colbourn at a little collection of us that used to have coffee Saturday mornings in Kingsland, in Auckland. And looking there is that wee group is Declan O'Donnell there in the background, David himself, Patrick Sweetman, and our good friend Dennis. And I got to know David, and he and Declan had worked for SIFs, for many, many years as social workers. One of the most thankless jobs in New Zealand. But they'd done it with honour, integrity, compassion, and a hope that they would do something for the families they were looking after. From Accrington, Lancashire. And so I went to Accrington on the last month or two ago, as did Declan, who by coincidence was wandering around the United Kingdom at the same time. So we went to Accrington to have a look at the place that David came from.
It feels very strange to be here in this historic place. We're thinking of you, and look at the sky. It's great to be here. To cut a long story short, it's great to be here. We're thinking of you, and we miss you. Goodbye.
This is the main street of Accrington, where David was brought up. He was a Naki lad, and that is the town hall. Now that plaque tells us that Accrington was once surrounded by a huge oak forest of Blackburnshire. Aksen is the Old English word for acorn, while tun means farmstead. Together, they give us the name Accrington. This is a giant mural they put up in the middle of one of the malls. The Accrington Pals. And the East Lancashire Regiment served in Egypt. And of course they have the Sphinx, the Crown, and of course Rose of Lancashire. And the motto is Spectator Agendo. Judge us by our deeds. Quite amazing. There you are, there's the arms of Accrington. It's got everything, isn't it? It's got lions, griffins, stags, red deer, the red rose of Lancashire, of course. And the motto is, by industry and prudence.
Once there was no wind. No cloud sailed across the sky, and the earth did not move. It stood stock still and didn't spin at all. It was a very strange world. Half of the planet had night all the time, and half of it had day. That's right, it was dark on one side and all light on the other. Now, most animals found this okay. Those that came out at night lived on the dark side of the earth, and those that liked sunshine had it all day long. Everyone liked this. Except, of course, for the cats. You see, even in those days, cats liked to sleep during the day and chase a bit of dinner at night. But this world that was dark on one side all the time and light on the other side, well, it just didn't suit cats.
So it's my pleasure to pay a respect to the memory of David Colbourn. He loved the town he came from, Accrington, and he wrote me a piece once for a magazine I was editing, and he said many great and interesting and somewhat disparaging things about Accrington. But one thing I must explain, if you say Accrington to anyone in England at all, even years later, they say Accrington Stanley. And as Dave said, as for Accrington Stanley, he's not a bloke but a football team. team that, despite being one of the few founder teams of the English Football Association, has persistently been at the bottom of every league that the association has ever run. The only moment of glory was somewhere around 1956 when it forced a replay in the FA Cup quarter-finals against Blackpool, a top First Division team, which played without Stanley Matthews that day. Accrington was massacred on the replay. "I was whipped," said David. "I was there. I whipped." And I suppose the last piece he said in that article was that when my dad came to New Zealand, he said, "They did well to come for here, lad. They made the right choice for to stay. There's no back home to match all this." And I wouldn't go back. I like living in New Zealand and appreciate what I have gained here. But I wish I'd never left Aki in the first place. David Colbourn. As they would say in Australia, a top bloke. As they would say in New Zealand, a great joker. Or in Ireland, a lovely man. He was one of the best, and we remember him well and remember him still.